Okay, we are live, but we got to let it breathe just for a moment here while we bring on Facebook, get things cooking. We love you. Appreciate you guys being patient with us on a Sunday evening. Hope it's been a great weekend for everybody out there in Broncos country, and we are good. Welcome in, everybody. It is the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen, and with me is my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zack, dude, hope you had a great weekend. Uh,
Same.
I wanted to get your thoughts, though, on the USA Today thing, and I'll just, we can go through and read a few excerpts. It's quite comical, but basically, USA Today is predicting that Bo Nix, Zach, is going to be the first quarterback to be scapegoated by Sean Payton, aka benched, in order to save his job because the Broncos are going nowhere in 2024.
Wouldn't he be the second quarterback under Sean Payton to be benched? Wasn't Russell Wilson the first, Chad?
Well, I guess what his stipulation, the first quarterback of this season, right,
Yeah,
of
I
2024.
figured. I figured. Yeah, I'm. This is another person's opinion. We go through these every week, and they're entitled to them. USA Today, historically, lately, like every other national media outlet, has not taken kindly to the Broncos, not taken kindly to the selection of Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Them, like everybody else, Chad thought the Broncos reached for Bo Nix. They don't think it's going to work out. Yada yada. We happen to think the Broncos will have the last laugh, and I don't see Bo Nix getting benched. I see Sean Payton having an extra long leash with him, and you know what? I don't think he'll even need it. He's so pro ready. He fits the Sean Payton system so well, Chad. I think the leash is long, but I don't think he'll need to use most of it.
And I agree. Imagine my shock. Today I'm getting pinged that there was an article. I think Bleacher Report aggregated a Jeremy Fowler segment on NFL Live or something, right, on ESPN, where he basically said, again, I'll paraphrase, something to the effect of, the Broncos are trying to repair Zach Wilson's, shifting gears for a second here, Zach Wilson's confidence, and that he is in a good state of mind, and that he is in the mix for the QB1 job. So apparently, from a national perspective, Zach, kind of similar to this USA Today article, that's news to them that Zach Wilson is in the mix for QB1 in Denver. Whereas boots on the ground and even the most casual fans who follow the team know that Sean Payton has said it's going to be a three-way competition: Bo Nix, Jarrett Stidham, Zach Wilson. Now, is it a genuine competition? Is Sean Payton, Zach, genuinely letting the chips fall, letting these guys go at it, letting the chips fall? I have some questions about that, but one thing I don't question, Zach, is when the dust finally settles, it's going to be Bo Nix.
Yes, sir. And I agree with what William Catalano's saying here. It's kind of a weird take. If you don't like Bo or don't think he'll make it, cool, but that's a weird way of saying it. I agree. It's, you look at the three Broncos quarterbacks, Chad, Jarrett Stidham, Bo Nix, and Zach Wilson. One's a rookie that they spent a first round pick on. So he has a honeymoon season anyway. The other two, Jarrett Stidham is a journeyman. They were signed to a cheap 2-year deal. And the other one, Zach Wilson, is a cast-off who was literally benched, several times over in New York. To say that Bo Nix, of those three, is the likeliest to be benched speaks of personal bias toward that pick.
By the way, guys, tonight we are without Mr. Producer. He's got some family stuff going on. So if you see me looking down at my phone, it's not because I am disinterested in what's going on. It's that, unfortunately, StreamYard has yet to kind of get its act together relative to highlighting star comments. So I got to keep an eye on the chat in Facebook while we're going here to make sure nobody gets glossed over. So let's start with seeing what's on the minds here of our great community, starting with, pardon me, David McElrath, the Papa Bear. What's up, brother? He says, good evening, Broncos country, Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. Scott will hear this eventually. 12-5, hashtag Buckham, hashtag MHH for life, Denver Broncos for life, Bonos, and Knicks for 6. He says, I believe the Broncos will surprise everyone. Love it. Thank you so much, my friend. And night in, night out, you are the guy setting the tone, starting things off with proceedings. So thank you, David. And the Ronk, of course, jumping in early as well. Kind of the front runners. That brings up something that kind of reminds me of something I want to bring up here. The front runners, the pack leaders, the ones who set the tone. On Facebook, always the Ronk. On YouTube, every single stream, it's the Papa Bear. So Mike and David, we love you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michael. And David, I agree with you. I think the Broncos will surprise. Relatively speaking, Chad, I don't think they're going to surprise and win the Super Bowl, but I do think, guys, that they will surprise and win more than the 3 or 4 or 5 games they're predicted to win this season. They're going to be pretty feisty, I think, this fall.
So here's a little specificity about what Robert Zaglinski of USA Today. I never heard that name before, and I'm not trying to clown him, but that I had never heard his name before. So for whatever that's worth, here's what he said, though. The reports coming out that Bo Nix is the front runner. He says, quote, "Let's not kid ourselves about what this means. If Nix plays poorly and the Broncos are getting run off the field, which feels likely on both counts." So what feels likely, just real quick, Nix plays poorly and the Broncos get run off the field. Then a desperate Payton will probably waste no time scapegoating his young signal caller in the interest of saving his job, close quote. So that specifically, Zach, is that's what he said. And it once again just shows kind of just plain old-fashioned ignorance of the subject. Because
Ooh.
look, and here's what's ironic about it, Zach, is you don't have to be like a everyday covering the team or everyday following what's going on to know that, hey, Sean Payton is a venerated guy, Super Bowl champion head coach, comes in, signs a very lucrative deal that makes him, I think now he is the highest paid head coach, right? Is he the highest paid coach?
Should be
one or two. All right, he's that high. Comes in, he's given rope. He tells everybody, hey, I'm going to give it the old college try with this Russell Wilson guy in the interest of you paid handsomely to get him from the Seahawks, and you're on the hook for a massive $250 million extension. So yes, I will give it a shot. I'm confident I can get more out of him, but no promises. I still want assurances that if he's not a fit for me, we can rip that Band-Aid off. And he was given those assurances. A coach that's on very much a short leash, Zach, gets no such assurances. A, okay,
right.
B, we move forward. Russell Wilson, he does. Sean Payton obviously is a net positive on Russ, but it's still just clunky. It's not conducive to what Payton's really trying to do with his vision. We all know what happens. He's gone. So then what? All right, the Walton Penners, who were, from reports, Zach, the impetus of George Payton going and saying, okay, Russ, let's get you paid sight unseen, basically, without taking a single snap. They go ahead and say, yeah, all right, cut him. We're going to eat $85 million, et cetera, et cetera. And then greenlight Sean Payton to go get your quarterback, which he does. And even if you're not Sean Payton, Zach, and you're just a run-of-the-mill NFL head coach, if ownership gives you free reign to go get your quarterback, a first-round pick, and you get that quarterback, even if none of those other ancillary factors, resume, track record, et cetera, were an issue, that gives you some rope, that alone. So it's just little things that are being missed from the nuance level that when you're at 50,000 feet and you're looking down, you miss, so such kind of bold predictions like this, it just makes you look even more out of touch.
Very well said. And you checked off a lot of the things in my mental Rolodex that I wanted to say. A couple more that I could add here, Chad, is that another national media member not understanding the ins and outs of the organization, knowing that if Sean Payton wanted to scapegoat anyone, if he got desperate, George Payton's right there. Vance Joseph's right there. There's others that would be scapegoated before Bo Nix. And why would he even get that desperate? There's no expectations on the Broncos this season, Chad. No one's expecting them to win a Super Bowl, bring a championship home. They're expecting them to tread water for the most part and develop the rookie quarterback. So I don't even see Sean getting to that point of desperation. It's a very lazy take, as William said, Chad, and the justification behind it is even worse.
Well said. That's such a good point, too. Like, I should have thought of that when I was writing up the article. If there's going to be a scapegoat, if things go sideways and Sean Payton feels the need to scapegoat, it's not going to be the young quarterback whose precious confidence and all that needs to be protected come hell or high water. If you went with him as the starter, you're in, for in for a pound, in for what, penny for a pound, whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be somebody that you can live without, both as the coach, Zach, and organizationally. And probably if the defense, like you said, is a culprit, first one's probably Vance Joseph. But if the defense is kind of carrying things, as has been somewhat the tradition over the recent past, then it probably is the GM let go. Wouldn't shock me. But I don't expect that to happen for what it's worth. I'm not saying that we're headed for a scapegoating. I'm just telling you, I concur here with my pard. Phil jumping in down in Tucson. Love you, big dog. Thank you for the stars. Saying good evening, Chad and Zach. I know it's early, but what is the ceiling for the Broncos this year? Hashtag Buckham, MHH for life. Broncos for life. I love it, dude. What do you see as the ceiling, Zach?
Realistically, taking my homer hat off, Phil and Chad, I think a 10-7 season would be their ceiling. I mean, breaking in a rookie quarterback's not easy, but beyond that, the schedule is freaking brutal. Starting from week 1 up until week 18, Chad, it is not going to be easy. I do think the defense will not continue the hot play they had. I do think VJ might be replaced midseason. There's so many moving parts to this team, but they could make a run at double-digit wins if a lot of the things, the stars fall through. If Bo Nix is closer to CJ Stroud as a rookie quarterback, I could see a 10-win season being their ceiling. But realistically, I think 8-9, 7-10, something like that is their flourish.
Yeah, I mean, look, dude, if Sean Payton could come in here in his first year with a less than ideal fit at quarterback and Russ giving the ball away like left and right. I mean, he didn't have, you look at his stats as a passer, Zach, and you don't go, oh my goodness, what a turnover machine. I mean, what was it? Something like 8 picks or something.
Mm-hmm.
But when you factor in all the lost fumbles, the cacophony, I mean, it was like a never-ending stream of sacks. Sean Payton, heretofore, he'd never seen anything like that from one of his quarterbacks. Just taking sack after sack like you're blind, deaf, and dumb. No offense to anybody out there who may be challenged in that way. You get what I'm trying to say here. Real quick, though, I just lost track because I saw this beautiful post from one of our most beautiful people in our community, the Duchess.
Thank you,
Michaela Parker.
Thank you.
She, Zach, I'm sure you saw this on, she sent in, she got her Bo Nix jersey. She won the jersey from last month's raffle.
Yeah.
She got her jersey. We flexed her on IG and Twitter and the YouTube community. And then here she is. It's already her profile pic, officially replacing, Zach, her last jersey winnings, which was Tim Patrick pre-jersey change, number change. And here she is with her new Bo Nix. I love it. She says, thank you for the Bo jersey. Love it, and love y'all. Thank you, Michaela. Always happy to see that you're happy. That's for sure. You mean a lot to us. I hope you know that. But looking good. That it does look sharp. I got to tell you, like of the new designs, I like the blue one more than. And I'm not talking, the vintage look where they're going with the old kind of D looking deal. I'm talking the new designs. I like the blue one. I can live with the blue one. I think it looks pretty snappy.
They are definitely growing on me, and I'm sure Michaela loves, rocking the new rookie quarterback. We're happy to hear that you love it, Michaela, but you never, ever, ever have to thank us for the jersey. You have earned it so many times over. We're so happy that you like it. Thank you for letting us know.
As you guys know, we do a raffle at the beginning of each month. We take the top 10 finishers on Super Chat in the month prior, and we do a random raffle, and the winner gets to pick a jersey. It's a small way that we can give back to our community that supports us. I mean, this is no lie. I'm not trying to flex on what I'm about to say here, and I'm not even really trying to air any kind of dirty laundry or anything, but just recently, now you guys see that we'll take an ad here and there. Okay. We'll do ads here and there only if they're ads that we feel like fit our thing, like AG1. We love AG1, and there've been a lot of good previous fits for what we view. We're very protective of our audience and our community. We don't just want to spam you with blah, blah, blah when we're doing our streams. We had another one just come up that would have been very lucrative. If you looked at the figures, you'd probably be like, whoa, why aren't you putting that up? Why aren't you accepting that? And it's just because, and I have turned it down. And the reason why is you guys, I care about you guys, first and foremost, and I want to keep the community experience good and high quality. And because we continue to just get great support from our community through Super Chat, stars, and other forms of donations, we're able to be kind of picky and choosy with what ads we run. So, Michaela, thank you so much. I hope you know how much your impact kind of trickles down in a lot of different ways that you might not always see and recognize.
Yeah, Michaela and everyone, we do a lot behind the scenes, especially Chad. You guys don't know how hard Chad works. I have a lot of respect for his work ethic, and I think he knows that. But we would not be anything, no, hard work or not, behind the scenes or not, if it wasn't for you guys day in and day out, Michaela, everyone else. We say it every time. We don't want it to sound cliche, but it's genuine from our hearts. Thank you for all your support, each and every one of you.
We love you. We love you. Hey, I want to grab this real quick, Zach, from Greg on Facebook, Greg Smith. Still, look at him. How down and dirty, OG, like ride till he dies, Broncos fan is Greg Smith, to a point where his Facebook photo, Zach, is still an AJ Bouye jersey. Like, that's how down he is for the Broncos. He says, I know it's early, but can we start to feel good about John Franklin Myers and Malcolm Roach, Zach, on the defensive line?
I do feel good about them. I talked about this on Thursday's pod. The defensive line compared to last season at this time last year, it is night and day different because they're much beefier up front. They were so bad at stopping the run, Chad. I think they finished 30th in the NFL that even George Payton went out the presser after the season and said we have to be better against the run, point blank period. And I like that they held up their end of the bargain. They brought in John Franklin Myers, Malcolm Roach, a couple other pieces on the DL, and combine them with Zach Allen and DJ Jones and Elijah Garcia, Matt Henningsen, some of the young guys. You have something here. Your room is much more complete now. It is early. We have to wait for the Pats to come on, but I am more encouraged, Jeff.
Same here. And I'm especially excited about what the JFM signing, the implications of it on just everybody else. I just used that phrase when talking about Michaela, the trickle down effect. Like John Franklin Myers, what he can bring to that D line, especially on obvious passing situations, Zach, and third down, it's going to create some favorable matchups, not only for, I think the number one beneficiary is going to be Zach Allen, but also just the edge guys like Kenneth Booker. You guys know KB. He's been with us a long time. We pulled him onto staff from the Super Chat Superstar community, and he became a staff writer for us for a year and a half or so, maybe 2 years. But then his military career took a turn to where he had to put that on pause. He went out on deployment or assignment, and now he's back. And so he's rocking and rolling. We brought him back on staff. He published, Zach, his first article since returning today, and it's basically kind of predicting which among the Broncos pass rushers have, the best odds of reaching double digits this year. And by the way, it's been a minute since the Broncos have had a double-digit sack artist. I mean, it's been a minute. Jonathan Cooper got within spitting distance. So did Nick Bonito. Jonathan Cooper ended up actually leading the team in sacks with 8.5. Bonito finished with 8. But these guys, I think, are going to help those numbers quite a lot. So, and that's something too, Zach, that Kenny writes about in his piece. I urge everyone, go give it a read when you get some time.
The Broncos have been spending years, in my opinion, trying to replace Derek Wolfe. That was their best defensive line player. I mean, since Malik Jackson anyway, that stayed with the team, Chad. And what I like about Franklin Myers is that he's a do-it-all player like Derek Wolfe, and that he can rush the passer, he can stop the run. He's great in the front seven. And then you have Malcolm Roach, who does all those things as well, more of a run stopper, but he's the mouthpiece, he's the enforcer, he's the dog. You put those two on the same line, you basically have one Derek Wolfe, and they need that kind of attitude and personality back on the defense.
We got Steve Hale jumping in with the Semper Fi off the top. Love it, dude. Thank you, Steve. So good to see you, big dog. He says, I look forward to seeing Bo Nix create his relationships with the receivers and believe that's a win for us. My big question is, can Vance Joseph have another tough defense? Who's he going to lean on without Justin Simmons? So who are the leaders this time around? Because honestly, when the season started last year, right, you had three kind of clear alpha dog leaders, keeping everybody jazzed up, making sure everybody's lined up where they needed to be. They're all gone. Justin Simmons, Kareem Jackson, Josie Jewell, they're all gone. So in your mind, who is he going to lean on, Vance Joseph, without Justin Simmons?
Well, number one would be the best player on the defense, Patrick Surtain. I know he's kind of a lower key guy, Chad, but he has to step up and be more vocal. The highest paid guy, I believe he's the highest paid, Zach Allen in the front seven. He's going to have to lean on him. And in the middle, the guy that was next to Josie Jewell, the guy who's probably going to wear the green dot on the helmet, Alex Singleton. He's still going to play all three downs more than likely, and I see him being the next leader to step up.
I'll throw another guy in there who, just kind of reading some of the tea leaves, things I've heard as well. PJ Locke. The Broncos
Good one.
didn't exactly, Zach, splurge to bring him back. 2 years, worth up to. Remember, that's the little asterisk on that. Worth up to, if he hits certain escalators and this and that. $9 million. So 2 years, $9 million, which for him as a former college free agent, didn't hear his name called on draft day. That's a significant payday for him. So really stoked for him. But PJ Locke is somebody who, first of all, just last week, he's gushing about the new DB's coach, Jim Leonard, who is a very much a rising star within just the coaching ranks. And, he had kind of the pick of the litter where he could choose to go, including some defensive coordinator opportunities around the league and high-level Division I college football. He opted to come to Denver and work under Sean Payton and be a part of that culture, kind of learn, see how one of the best approaches things just from a coaching perspective. I know one's defense, one's offense, but he was gushing about PJ Locke was gushing about Jim Leonard and just the vibe. We heard what Sean Payton had to say about PJ Locke last week. I think he's a guy, Zach, who has steadily earned more and more trust and belief in the coaching staff. And look, when you say goodbye to a guy as accomplished and tenured and just deeply rooted as Justin Simmons is, you got to have some idea of how you're going to replace that leadership presence and acumen. And I would keep an eye on PJ Locke to become a little bit more of a vocal guy. And I'll agree with you, Zach. I want to see PS2 start being a more vocal guy and stepping forward. But sometimes these cornerbacks, I mean, they're not very often like Aqib Talib. They're alphas. Don't get me wrong. They are very much alpha dogs, but they're kind of more in the lone wolf aspect of being an alpha. They're alpha because they're the only wolf on their island. Like, they're doing their thing. Champ Bailey, good example of that. Guys would look to him. He was a quiet leader. He led basically by example, and that's well documented. I want to see it from PS2. We'll see.
PJ Locke is a tremendous call, Chad. And this is a guy who I didn't have much faith in to be anything more than a rotational or backup safety, but boy, did he come on strong last season. So credit to VJ for that. Credit where it's due. PJ Locke looks like he's going to start opposite Brandon Jones. And he actually there's a pretty good piece about PJ Locke, I think, in the Denver Post. In 2019, after he went undrafted, he was going to sign with the XFL Vipers because my family doesn't like snakes, and he found his way in Denver with the Broncos. So I'm rooting for him, and that's a great call. I think he'll step up and be that captain, if only unofficially.
I want to grab this from Todd Ostendorf, who has, he's in our chat every single stream, not just MHH Pod, but any Mile High Huddle podcast. He's there. And lately he's been throwing down on Super Chat too, which is always really appreciated. So Todd says here, it is odd, going back to this USA Today article, Sean Payton, it's odd because Sean Payton picked Bo Nix, so he isn't going to bag on his quarterback if he wanted to get rid of him. You want to be able to have trade value. So that's like the long view. Like, I'm not going to bag on my guy because maybe at some point it would affect his perceived trade value. But really, it's so much more based than that. It just takes and requires, Zach, a little bit more nuanced understanding of what's actually going on the ground in Denver. Like, here's a further example of what this USA Today author wrote. Quote, a coach potentially on the hot seat with a young quarterback he's supposed to develop. Have you seen Sean Payton's quarterback resume? I mean, need I put a pin in that? A coach potentially on the hot seat with a young quarterback he's supposed to develop is arguably the worst possible combination in the NFL. That's because not only is that the said coach no longer concerned with the franchise's future, but he's also liable to shatter the confidence of a player who is ideally supposed to elevate his team. It's the worst of both worlds. Close quote. That kind of ties in. That reminded me, Todd's comment did, of this particular section. Zach, your thoughts?
Can we keep this up for a second? I want to kind of go blow by blow here. First of all, who's to say Sean Payton's on the hot seat, Chad? I mean, exactly. No one.
Nobody.
No one. You said it best earlier. He's making at least $18 million a year. The ownership loves him. They just drafted his quarterback of the future. He's here for the long term. So hot seat, throw that out. Supposed to develop. You got that down already. Worst combination. And then there's just so much editorializing here, Chad. And the whole basis of his argument is that he's going to get so desperate and go to his number 2 quarterback. So he's going to bench the rookie for who? Who's sitting on the bench better than Bo Nix? For Zach Wilson, you're going to do what you said earlier, shatter the rookie's confidence after a handful of his first season for Zach freaking Wilson or Jarrett Stidham. Of all the crappy takes we've heard in Broncos canon this offseason, this takes the cake far and away.
Exactly. There are a lot of logical leaps here. The first being that there's even a chance of Sean Payton being on the hot seat, but then to even call into question his acumen with quarterbacks. I mean, show me a Sean Payton quarterback failure. The closest thing you can come to is actually Russell Wilson. And yet, because it didn't come out in the wash relative to, the team destiny and making the playoffs and the standings in the way ideally you would expect to see in a success story head coach quarterback success story. But Zach, this dude took Russell Wilson from whatever it was, 15, 16 touchdowns in year 1 with the Broncos to 26, which is the most a Broncos quarterback has passed for since Peyton Manning's 2014 season, just as a reminder. So that's something. Improved on the team's standings by 3 wins, despite all the obstacles, not only the rust stuff and the sacks and the turnovers, but a historically bad start to the season defensively, etc. And then you look at his record, Zach, besides Russ. Again, if he's the only guy you can point to, and I just laid out kind of the extenuating circumstances thereof, that Russ is maybe the only failure in Sean Payton's history, meaning the quarterback he asserted, as I'm going with him, what are you talking about? Supposed to develop. That's just what Sean does. He wakes up in the morning. He brushes his teeth, he shaves, takes care of his morning business. All right. Puts on his pants one leg at a time like the rest of us, Zach. And then what does he do? He breathes air and he makes quarterbacks better than what they are. Like that's just what he does. So it's kind of a joke. And that goes all the way back, very quick cliff notes, to Kerry Collins and the Giants, circa 2000 era, to Quincy Carter and the Cowboys, Tony Romo, Drew Brees, and the list of different Saints quarterbacks he had to elevate in the late Brees era. End of sermon.
Also very true. I just want to, if this person was in front of me, I would say, where on record did Sean Payton say he's no longer concerned with the franchise's future? If a job is paying me and cutting me a check for $18 million every year, I am damn sure concerned about their future, Chad. He's acting like Sean Payton's he's been there for like 5 or 6 seasons. It's only his second season in Denver, and he finally got his players and his quarterback. To say that he no longer cares, it's the worst of both worlds, he's detrimental to the team's future. Where is that coming from? What fact and basis do you have to go on other than your biased opinion?
Exactly. George Fox on Facebook. So good to see you. One of our great regulars jumping in to say, look, guys, we feel very lucky when we get a jersey. Some of us might never buy one, so to win one is great. Yes, thank you for them. That's very cool. And you know what? It's true. Like the cost of a jersey nowadays, Zach, it's not cheap. I mean,
like
we're talking
else.
By the time you pay taxes on it and everything, out the door, you're looking at somewhere between 150 to 160 bucks, depending on what jersey you got. And so that's why, George, if and when we can, we want to give back to our community and deliver those jerseys. And anytime you guys might have ideas for other ways that we can keep giving back in terms of, like this Elway helmet, as an example, signed John Elway from way back in like 91, 92-ish. That's off the table. That will never leave my presence. But like memorabilia, stuff like that, these are ideas, different things. The easiest thing is to just say, hey, let's send you a jersey. But there are other options out there, Zach. So if you guys have any ideas, send it our way.
George, we appreciate it for sure, the sentiment here, but I'll say to you what I said to Michaela: you never have to thank us. It's the absolute least we can do. We would not be podcasting, and it wouldn't be possible without you guys. So we always feel the love. We always try to reciprocate that.
The original Dizzy D jumping in. That's 2 MHH podcasts in a row. Love it, dude. Thank you. Definitely flexing his super chat superstar might, and we appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you.
It says hot take. In the next 2 seasons, we will win a playoff game. We are on the comeback trail despite what the media says. We got that mile high soldier mentality. Yes, indeed. That's OG stuff right there. Like that goes back. It's kind of similar to what do they call it when Howard Griffith and Terrell Davis start? We call it now the Mile High Salute, right? Like the media quickly branded it the Mile High Salute, but to them it was No Limit Soldiers. So I see that's like an intermixing of them both, Mile High Salute and No Limit Soldiers, Mile High Soldier mentality. Your thoughts, though, on his premise here of his bold prediction?
Well, the Broncos, like every other franchise, they need 2 things to be successful for the long term in the league, and that's the coach and that's the quarterback. They got the coach down last year with Sean Payton. We're very confident about that. If they can nail the quarterback, if Bo Nix is it, and we'll know fairly certain on chat just by getting the vibes and by just feeling the intangible qualities. And if he's it, they can compete in 2025, and I mean legitimately compete for maybe the division, certainly for a wild card spot. And not just that, it won't be a flash in the pan where they're good in 25 and then crappy for another 10 years. If Bo Nix is the guy, they can be consistently good for the next decade. That's what gives me hope, Dizzy D.
Look, if Russell Wilson doesn't falter in that Detroit game, well, honestly, if he doesn't falter in the Houston game and then follows that up 2 weeks later with a massive missteps against Detroit, and then, of course, the fateful game, Zach, against the Patriots, the Broncos were in the conversation last year to win the division.
Yeah.
They very well could have won the division if they could have just avoided some of the pitfalls that they unfortunately fell into. I mean, the Chiefs ended up going all the way at 11-6. So yes, now that's just to kind of say, hey, look, the Broncos flirted with that kind of greatness. Sean Payton put them in a position where they could, despite some of the obstacles. But listen, as Zach has mentioned, this year's schedule, even though it ranks them off the top of my head, what was it, 20th strength of schedule, something like that. It's deceptive. It's a deceptive ranking in that regard because you have some teams that are going to be a lot better than what they showed as their winning percentage last year, and that's what factors into strength of schedule. So this is going to be, hey, this to me, Zach, still, I think 2025 is you can start feeling a lot of confidence in the Broncos being not just competitively relevant, but competitive. Okay. This year, honestly, if they get to that point, I'm going to look at that, Zach, as gravy and kind of like the cherry on top to the cake being watching a young quarterback handpicked by Sean Payton kind of grow into his role and develop on the fly so that 2025, maybe as soon as 2024, can be fruitful for the team again.
The schedule is rough, it's not just because the teams are good. It's because there's so many teams on there that have some sort of revenge angle that are out to get Denver, Chad. I mean, Seattle, the Steelers off the bat. Then you got the Jets. Then you got the Saints. There's so much revenge motive that's going to be tough for the Broncos to compete for anything more than maybe an 8, 9, 10 win season. But I'm going to say this after going for best case scenario the last 2, 3, 4 years. No matter what, they make the playoffs, they don't make the playoffs. As long as Bo Nix is the answer, as long as they develop him and they have a permanent answer as to whether this guy has it, is this guy the guy? That's the biggest win in my book. Then they can go into 25, like Chad was saying, and really seriously compete.
The coffee king here, Patrick, jumping in. Good to see you, bro. Yeah, they will be kings once again soon. Aloha, right back at you, my friend. Just some reactions to the article. Like, Phil, this guy clearly has not done his research on Payton. It'll be fun to prove him wrong. Colorado on YouTube saying Sean Payton cares about his legacy and wants to win. Why would it be in his best interest to not be concerned about the long-term future of the team?
Oh, man.
Article makes no sense. Pearl saying, hey, it's BS. It's bull crap. Okay. Good stuff. And even Dylan, who's of course doing his thing, moderating for us on YouTube, co-host of the Orange and Blue View podcast. These are the kind of articles you get from the national media, too far removed from the team, so it's full of minimal research and guesswork. And yeah, it's Zach and I have been in the digital media game for many, many moons. And oftentimes, especially this time of year, you get kind of uh, quota errors, Zach, in judgment, meaning, oh gosh, I've got a quota I got to meet. I'm supposed to be at 15 articles by the middle of the month. I'm only sitting here at 8. Let me scan around for some ideas. Let me brainstorm. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and, oh wait, could Sean Payton be on the hot seat? I mean, he didn't win last year. Controversial Russell Wilson thing. Yeah, Sean Payton. Publish. That's often the way things shake out.
I don't know, Chad. I mean, I don't cover the Vikings, but if I was a national writer, I wouldn't come up with a piece saying, what if the Vikings bench JJ McCarthy? I mean, could it happen? I understand the quota, I understand the business, but like this is just egregiously bad. It doesn't make sense from not just a Broncos standpoint, from like an NFL fan standpoint. It screams casual to me to suggest that they would turn around and get so desperate to bench the rookie quarterback in his first season. Just makes no sense.
Yes. Guys, we started late. It's kind of this off season. That's kind of on Sundays. That's kind of been our thing. Just how it is. Things going on. We'll probably keep tonight pretty tight. If you have any burning topics or questions, I'm signaling now is the time to get them in the chat. But for fun, really quick here, Zach, I want to take a peek at Kenny's article from today about, hey, which Broncos pass rushers have a chance at double digits. Let me get rid of a few things that will distract us. So, for example, he's got Zach Allen, right? And you guys go read the article. He puts his floor, Zach does Kenneth Booker, Zach Allen's floor at 4 sacks, but his ceiling around 9 sacks. So, in other words, even in the best case scenario, don't expect double digits from Zach Allen. Your thoughts, and then I want to grab a couple more from this.
My first reaction was it's kind of low for Zach Allen, but I'm looking at his stats year by year: 0 sacks, 2 sacks, 4 sacks, 5.5, and 5 every year. So I think four for Zach Allen is a fair floor.
Baron Browning, some interesting stuff here. I'm just going to quote from him actually here. He says, Browning is the most captivating prospect on the list with the highest potential and the most significant risk due to his struggle to maintain consistent health. His journey last season was marked by a stint on IR, causing him to miss the first 6 weeks. Then he goes on to say, despite the setback, Browning finished the season with a commendable 5 sacks, hinting at his potential to record 12 plus if, there's the big caveat, he can maintain his presence on the field. Plus, a little escalator here being, this is a contract year for Baron Browning. He's got his floor as 5 sacks, Zach, and his ceiling of 14.
Boy, man, I would kill for that ceiling for Baron Browning. You have to hope he stays healthy and really capitalizes on being the Broncos' best edge rusher. But the problem is, Chad, there's so many other people in that room. Jonah Ellis, Nick Bonito, who we're going to talk about here. I mean, I would love for Baron just to get to double digits. I'd be happy with that.
What he's got here for Bonito is, a nice little recount of how he did last year. 8 sacks. Pro Football Focus credited Bonito with 9, but they measure half sacks as a full sack. So, the NFL recorded him 8 total sacks, which put him in second place on the team. 26 hurries, 47 total pressures. He's got the bend, he's got the burst. Kenny's got him at 4 sacks as his floor, but a ceiling, he's in that potential along with Browning in Booker's estimation anyway, of being a double-digit guy.
This is where I think his floor should be a little higher and his ceiling a little lower. Again, the same argument applies to Nick Bonito. He has all the talent in the world, but he's kind of a one-trick pony, Chad, on defense. And also, he's competing with so many others for playing time. You didn't just use a 7th-round pick on Jonah Ellis. Use a 3rd-round draft pick. I mean, you invested a lot in this guy, and you obviously see him being a big part of the rotation.
Okay, there are many other players on this list, so go read the article. But here's the last one, Jonathan Cooper. And he did fly under the radar last year, and yet he still finished as the team leader in sacks, 8.5, narrowly edging out Bonito. So what has he got in store? He thinks 4.5 as a floor, Zach, 9 sacks as a ceiling. Your thoughts?
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, Cooper, if his sack numbers aren't there, you're still rest assured knowing that he's doing his job correctly in other facets. Chad, he's really good against the run. He's kind of become somewhat of a leader in that outside linebacking core. So he's right on the money, I think Kenny is.
Okay, guys. Pearl, so good to see you tonight. Hope you're doing well. You and the hubby, she's saying revenge can also be on the Broncos. Yeah, it's coming. We got a couple messages here for you guys before we dip out. But while Zach's going through some of these messages, of course, we want you to take heed. But while you're listening, drop in here who you got as the most likely to reach double-digit sacks in the chat.
I cannot believe 40 minutes flew by as always. I'm always just stupefied by that, Chad. But that was another tremendous installment of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on Twitter at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on Twitter at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every podcast, check out mhhmerch.com and get you some. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on Insta at mile_high_huddle. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your Football Priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some of that merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
Amen. Shot creator saying Browning double-digit sacks. I mean, it might seem like the most obvious. Phil Browning 11, but it's the most obvious for a reason. It's kind of like, hey, cliches are cliches for a reason. It's because they're true, right? If the biggest barrier to Baron Browning reaching the double-digit sacks is not scheme, it's not opponent, health, it's the injury bug. Can you stay on the field? Because when he's on the field, the production comes. So let's just all kind of keep our fingers crossed that he'll stay healthy this year. What's up, Trap Scores? Appreciate you, big dog. Shout out there. But speaking of shout outs, guys, tonight, a mile high salute to the great Super Chat superstars and supporters helping us keep the lights on. Starting with the Papa Bear, David McElrath, the Ronk. We got Phil McLaughlin. We got the Duchess, Michaela Parker, in her new Bo Nix jersey. We got Steve Hale. We got George Fox. And, of course, last but not least, the original Dizzy D. Much love and respect. Thank you, guys. We'll see what tomorrow brings. I mean, tomorrow, Zach, is the 10th of June. It's going to be the eve of mandatory minicamp beginning. So we'll see what maybe kind of comes about tomorrow by way of the newswire. Can't wait to talk with y'all.
Big week coming up. Cortland Sutton's return to practice. The last couple practices until their big summer break. We'll break it all down tomorrow night. Have a great rest of your Sunday. We'll see you then. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.